First up, the most noticeable difference is that the Charge 6 now comes with a handle, a detachable handle at that. You can use it in two different ways, as a traditional carrying handle, or, ready for this, or as more of a carrying loop. You could attach it to a backpack perhaps, but if you're like me, you're not gonna use it at all. Things are also looking a little bit different at the bottom of the enclosure. Long gone are the 10 thin silicone strips found on the Charge 5, which some people had issue with peeling off over time, in favor of this much wider and flatter base for better stability. I have had my Charge 5 roll off camp table a few times, so I am a fan of this new design. We also see an increase in durability. You may notice the extra protection around its passive radiators, and that's because the Charge 6 is now certifiably drop proof from the height of 1 meter even onto concrete. But wait, there's more. They've also upgraded its water resistance. While the Charge 5 was IP67 rated, the Charge 6 is now IP68 rated. Both are dust proof, but the difference lies in its water resistance. The IP68 version can go down to 1.5 meters of water for 30 minutes. Of course, we can't forget how the Charge series got its name. While the Charge 5 offers a USB-A courtesy outlet, the Charge 6 now relies on a single USB-C port, which has a few different functions. It'll charge the device, it can charge your device, and it also has another unique feature, which we'll talk about in a second. Moving on to the controls, you still get your raised playback controls in typical JBL fashion, but you may notice that the Party Boost button is now long gone and has been replaced with an Auracast button. Now, we were expecting this. It's the same thing that happened to the Extreme 4 and the Go 4 and the Clip 5 last year. So the good news is that you can pair a Charge 6 to any of those devices. The bad news is that it does not offer backward compatibility, so you can't pair a Charge 6 with a Charge 5. When they're connected to the app, it makes you choose between the Auracast connected Charge 6 or the Party Boost connected Charge 5. And that same USB-C port offers audio over USB and lossless audio at that. It allows you to visually manage any Auracast Link speakers, just like how it was with Party Boost, and it still allows you to pair an identical model for stereo playback. But my favorite new feature of the Charge 6 is its new 7-band customizable EQ. There are 4 new presets to choose from, which I don't personally find very useful, but that 7-band EQ is a game changer in my opinion. It really allows you to personalize the sound of the Charge 6 much further than you could with the 3-band EQ that's available on the Charge 5. In terms of battery life, while the Charge 5 was rated for 20 hours of playback off a single charge, the Charge 6 is now rated for 28 hours of playback off a single charge. However, there is a bit of a catch. Those last 4 hours are only available if you engage JBL's new Playtime Boost feature, which you'll find in the app. However, there's a bit of a catch. Playtime Boost is essentially an EQ setting. An EQ setting that cuts out a good chunk of your bass response, leaving you with mostly mids and treble. It doesn't sound super great. Bass heads will hate it. It's kind of like a podcast EQ, so if you are worried about battery life, it's always best just to keep a portable battery bank on hand. Still, 24 hours of battery life under normal operation, listening at a reasonable volume without your bass frequencies cranked, is still pretty good. Now, when it comes to sound and hardware, like the Charge 5, the Charge 6 is still a mono speaker with dual passive radiators and 1 tweeter and 1 woofer. But they have managed to jam in a slightly larger, upgraded woofer. And the good news that I'm sure many people are going to be happy to hear, the Charge 6 absolutely provides better bass response than the Charge 5. I do find the Charge 6 also to be a tad darker sounding. Instruments like piano keys don't quite have the same presence as I can hear from the Charge 5, but the good news is that you can go into that 7-band EQ and easily restore those frequencies. Again, a pretty solid upgrade. And lastly, while the Charge 5 was rated at 40 watts of output, the Charge 6 is now rated for 45.